Let me tell you something that's gonna shake you out of your comfort zone and snap you straight into reality. Because what I'm about to say ain't just talk. It's the kind of truth that makes grown folks sit down, breathe deep, and say, "Now wait a minute." See, you ever wonder why in 2025 America, this big all-superpower with all its talk about democracy, alliances, and shared values, suddenly starts walking real close with Pakistan? You ever sit there scrolling your feed, watching the news, and ask yourself, why is the U.S. acting like Pakistan's best friend while dying India like it just showed up to the party uninvited? You wanna know why? Because the world don't move on loyalty anymore. It moves on leverage, power, and survival. See, when you look at global politics, don't expect to find friendship. This ain't no high school clique. This is a battlefield dressed in suits and smiles. And right now, America is playing chess. Real hard, and India's the piece they don't know how to play anymore. Now, don't get me wrong, India's powerful. In fact, it's *2* powerful, and that's the problem. America ain't scared of weak nations. It fears the ones that stand on their own, don't beg for attention, don't need validation. And India, it's got a military that could wake a sleeping giant. It's got tech that's lighting up Silicon Valley without leaving its own soil. It's got youth, culture, brains, and backbone, and most dangerously, it's got *vision*. But you know what America sees when it looks at India today? It sees a country that don't flinch, a country that ain't willing to bow. And for a power like America, that's uncomfortable. See, it's one thing to partner with a nation. It's another when that nation starts making you feel like the sidekick. India ain't trying to be anyone's sidekick anymore. And that right there, that shakes up the whole table. So what does the U.S. do when it feels its grip slipping? It looks for pressure points. It looks for ways to regain leverage. Enter Pakistan. Now, I ain't saying Pakistan doesn't matter. Every country got a place on the board. But America ain't suddenly hugging Pakistan because it loves chai or cricket. No, ma'am, no, sir. It's because Pakistan is the lever, the wedge, the card they want to play to make India look twice. To say, you don't want to cooperate with us on our terms, cool. Let's see how you handle a little pressure from the neighborhood. See, what people don't understand is this. Support don't always come from affection. Sometimes it comes from strategy. America sees Pakistan as unstable enough to be used and important enough to create friction. And America's betting that if it lifts Pakistan just enough, it can knock India off balance. But let me tell you something. That strategy, that's like throwing rocks at a mountain hoping it'll fall. Now listen, this ain't the first time America's done this dance. Back in the Cold War, it flirted with Pakistan just to poke at the Soviet Union. It's the same playbook. New players, but now India's not the same India, and Pakistan's not the same pawn. The world changed, but the mindset stayed stale. You see, India don't need validation from the West no more. It's got its own orbit now. It builds its own satellites, launches its own missions to the moon, and still has enough muscle to flex in the Himalayas. It's become a voice of the global South, a symbol of sovereignty. And that makes a lot of folks real nervous, and here's where it gets real tricky. America ain't just backing Pakistan in silence anymore. It's doing it loud, openly, and let me tell you, that ain't an accident. That's a message. It's saying, hey India, remember who held your hand. Don't forget who you need. But India's saying, thanks for the memories. I'll walk alone if I have to. See, when India started buying oil from Russia, standing tall with BRICS, pushing back against Western narratives, it was writing its own script, and America ain't used to that. They're used to being the director, not the co-star. So, what do? They try to disrupt the show, and they figured, what better way than to boost the one country India's always had tension with? But let's not be naive, this ain't just about two countries. It's about the soul of the global order. It's about a new world where power ain't defined by where you sit at the UN, but how you stand when the storm hits. And India's been standing strong, economically, militarily, culturally. It ain't asking for a seat at the table anymore. It's building its own table, and that right there, that's what's scaring the old guard. Now let's talk about Pakistan for a minute. It's been through it, politically, economically, socially. And now it sees America's attention as an opportunity, and why wouldn't it? When you've been in survival mode, you take whatever rope's thrown your way, but America ain't handing Pakistan a lifeline. It's handing it a leash. It wants influence, access, a foothold near India's door. You ever seen a neighbor who gets real chummy with the folks who don't like you? Not 'cause they care, but just to keep your ego in check. That's what's happening here, but here's the twist: India ain't flinching. It ain't folding. In fact, it's doing the opposite. It's doubling down on independence, on self-reliance, on making friends that ain't transactional. And that, my friend, is real power. See, India don't need to scream to be heard anymore. The world's already listening. From Africa to Southeast Asia, countries are looking at India and saying, that's a model we can follow. Not because India's perfect, but because it's real asterisk. Because it's authentic, and in a world full of manufactured narratives, authenticity, that's priceless. Now, let me drop a truth bomb on you. The reason America's supporting Pakistan in 2025 ain't about Pakistan. It's about control. It's about fear. It's about the panic that rises when you see a once quiet country start to roar. When you see a nation like India step into its own light and say, we'll chart our path, whether you walk with us or not. America don't hate India. It fears the India it can't control, and so the support for Pakistan, it ain't permanent. It's a pressure tactic, a lever, but levers only work when the fulcrum stays still, and India's moving. Evolving, transforming. Let's not forget, this is a country that turned colonial wounds into rocket fuel. A country that went from famine to exporting food, from being underestimated to being unignorable. And the West, it still looks at the East like it's stuck in yesterday, but India's living in tomorrow. And now we got this moment in time where the old alliances are being tested, where handshakes come with hidden daggers, where partnerships get traded like stock options, and America's playing a dangerous game, thinking it can pressure India into compliance by propping up the one rival it thinks can cause disruption. But let me tell you something. You don't scare a lion by waving a stick. You wake it up. And when that lion opens its eyes, you better hope you've got more than talk. Because India's roar don't echo, it shakes foundations. So to those wondering why America's doing what it's doing in 2025, understand this. It's not about right or wrong. It's not about alliances or principles. It's about power. It's about who holds the mic. And right now, India's picking up the mic for the first time in centuries, and the world's realizing that its voice ain't an echo. It's thunder, and thunder don't ask for permission. India's not anti-West. It's pro-India, and that's what's new, that's what's bold, that's what's revolutionary, and revolutions, they make old empires real nervous. Now listen to me. If you think this story ends with handshakes and press conferences, think again. We're watching a shift, a realignment, and India's not just part of it. It is asterisk it. So while America plays its games with Pakistan, while it tries to apply pressure through old tricks and tired tactics, India is doing what real leaders do, focusing on building, rising, uniting. You can't slow down a people who have already decided they're unstoppable, and you sure as hell can't scare them with old ghosts. So go ahead, keep supporting Pakistan, keep trying to box India in, but understand this India's not playing defense anymore. It's writing the rules, and the world's starting to read that playbook, because once you taste independence, not just in politics, but in thought, in ambition, in destiny, there ain't no going back. And India's already too far gone to ever kneel again. So if you're still wondering why is America openly supporting Pakistan against India, now you know it's not about alliance, it's about anxiety. It's not about partnership, it's about panic, because when a nation like India rises, quiet, focused, and unstoppable, those who once held the spotlight start fearing the shadows they cast, and India is done living in the shadows. This is the age of awakening, and ain't no deal, no alliance, no tactic gonna stop a country that finally knows exactly who it is, where it's going, and why it don't need permission to get there. So the world can keep asking questions. But India's already answering with action, and that, my friend, is a language every superpower understands. You ever notice how the strongest ones in the room don't need to say a word? They don't yell. They don't flex every 5 seconds. They don't beg for attention, because power asterisk, real asterisk power, ain't in the noise. It's in the silence. It's in the way you move without explaining. It's in the way you act without reacting. And right now, the world is watching a nation that has mastered that kind of power. A nation that doesn't scream but shifts the weight of the world just by standing tall. That nation is India. See, there's a reason the West is so uncomfortable. It ain't the missiles, it ain't the budget, it ain't the headlines or the hashtags, it's the silence. It's the fact that India didn't need to ask for a seat at the global table at asterisk built asterisk its own, quietly, consistently, without begging for permission. That right there, that's the kind of strength that makes people nervous. Not the loud kind, the kind you can't predict, can't control, can't dismiss. Back in the day, India was seen as the help, the service provider, the outsourced labor, the back office of the world. But somewhere along the way, something changed. A fire lit up. Not with fanfare, not with slogans, but with strategy. India stopped trying to prove itself to others and started building for itself. And that shift in energy, that marked the birth of a whole new doctrine, not just military, but mental, a mindset of quiet resolve. A doctrine that said, we don't need to shout, we just need to show. That doctrine has begun to redefine everything, how India engages with the world, how it prepares for conflict, how it invests in its future. The West is used to countries that react when provoked, who jump up when ignored, who crumble when pressured. But India leaned into the silence. It chose patience over panic. It chose precision over posture. And now, that choice is paying off in ways the West didn't see coming. You gotta understand, when India conducts military drills on the Himalayan border, it doesn't broadcast it like a blockbuster trailer. It executes with efficiency. When it launches a moon mission, it doesn't throw a global party. It lands it, celebrates it quietly, and moves on to Mars. When it partners with nations across Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America, it doesn't flood the news with noise. It builds, it invests, it nurtures. That's what unnerves the old powers, because they don't know how to read silence. They don't know how to negotiate with dignity that doesn't come with demands. The Western playbook is built on control through dependency, through dominance, through deals that come wrapped in strings. But what happens when a country like India starts cutting those strings? What happens when it says, we're open to partnership, but not at the cost of our principles? What happens when India stops playing the game and starts designing its own? That's not defiance, that's evolution. See, silence doesn't mean surrender. Silence means strength. It means observation. It means every move is measured. That's why America can't get a grip on India the way it used to with other nations. It's like trying to box with a shadow. India's not giving away its next move, and the West hates that. Because if they can't predict you, they can't control you, and if they can't control you, they fear you. Let's talk about how India applies that silent strength in its military doctrine. India's not building its defense like a country preparing for war. It's building like a country preparing for sovereignty. Not just to protect land, but to protect values, not just to fight, but to deter. It's developing hypersonic weapons, artificial intelligence, space defense, and homegrown fighter jets. Not to parade them, but to make a statement without saying a word. We are not waiting for your help. We are becoming self-sufficient. It marked the birth of India's assertive military doctrine backed by innovation, not aggression, not recklessness, but readiness, the kind of readiness that doesn't provoke, but promises consequences. The kind of readiness that says, we don't want conflict, but we won't run from it either. That's the kind of message that speaks louder than any speech. India's silence is not passive, it's strategic. Every time the world thought India would bend, it stood firm. When pressured over oil imports from Russia, India didn't flinch. When cornered on global platforms, it didn't shout back. It simply walked its own path. That's more powerful than any loud protest, because it shows control, and the most dangerous force in the world is a nation that is calm under fire. That's what India has become. The West, especially America, has always measured influence by how much noise a country makes in the global conversation. But India has rewritten that scale. It's showing the world that you don't have to be the loudest voice to be the most respected. That you don't need to echo Western narratives to lead a new one. And that's exactly what India is doing, leading quietly. Look around. BRICS is rising. The global south is aligning. Old alliances are cracking, while new corridors of cooperation are forming. And at the center of that quiet storm, India, unbothered, unapologetic, uncompromising, this is the new model of power, one that doesn't chase headlines but defines history. Even in the digital space, where the world moves at the speed of scandal, India is playing the long game. It's not getting caught in every geopolitical drama. It's not issuing daily statements. It's focused on results. And that's what's scaring the legacy powers, because they've built a system that rewards noise. And here comes India making waves without making noise. India's relationships aren't about who claps the loudest, but who stays the longest. It's building trust with nations that have felt used and overlooked by the West. It's forging ties based on mutual benefit, not manipulation. And those countries, they're listening, not because India is shouting, but because its silence speaks volumes. The irony is that in trying to box India into a corner, the West has only highlighted its independence. In trying to provoke India into reaction, they've only shown the world India's restraint. In trying to manipulate the narrative, they've exposed their fear of a narrative they no longer control. That's the danger of silent strength. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't need approval. It just moves, and let's be real. The West has spent decades shaping the world through dominance, but the script is flipping, and the authors of the new chapter, they're not asking for writing tips. They're not consulting the old guard. They're penning it in their own language, and India's language is action, innovation, resolve without the noise. The West doesn't know how to play that game. They know how to sanction, how to pressure, how to project power through drama. But India is giving them something they haven't seen before, discipline, and that's what wins wars, not just on battlefields, but in boardrooms, in treaties, in trade. So while Western leaders hold press conferences and issue statements, India is laying fiber optic cables across rural villages, launching satellites, digitizing its economy, scaling up green energy, and investing in education and defense. All while keeping its dignity intact, not once bowing, not once begging, just building. That's the ultimate protest. Not to shout in the streets, but to succeed in silence. Not to demand respect, but to command it through example. Not to burn flags, but to raise your own so high the world can't help but look up. And that's why the Western playbook is failing, because it was written in a time when the world listened only to the loudest voices. But now the world is tuning in to something deeper, something steadier, something stronger, a rhythm that isn't shaken by external noise. That rhythm is India. India's silent strength, not loud protest, is what's truly threatening the Western playbook. It's a reminder that dignity, discipline, and direction don't need decoration. They don't need to be broadcasted. They just need to be lived. And when a nation starts doing that consistently, the world takes notice. Not because it's told to, but because it can't ignore it.